Hey there, this is Crafting Your Professional Portfolio. I'm Alvalyn Lundgren, and this time I'm going to share with you about interviews and how to prepare and what kinds of questions you can expect, and also talk a little bit about internships. Our goal for the course is to develop a flexible portfolio that's going to showcase your unique ability, creative thinking, and point of view. And for this session, we're talking about how to prepare for interviews and initial consultations if you are seeking clients, and also how to approach internships. We're going to take two tracks. If you are seeking employment as a visual creative, your promotion efforts will continue until you get a job, and then you'll probably stop them for a while. Your resume is going to be a major factor along with your portfolio, so you will definitely need both. With everything you do, you need to keep your long-term career goals in mind. Where do you ideally want to be? As you decide to leave a job and search for another, those goals become very important because they will actually give you direction and act as a compass. If you're an independent contractor, on the other hand, you will be consistently and continuously promoting your work because you always need to be looking for that next client, because you always need to be making money because you will always have bills to pay. The resume as an independent contractor is not as important as the portfolio. It's still useful and still necessary, but it carries less weight than your book. And you'll come to find out that you will use your website more than a physical book, especially as you gain reputation and people start coming to you rather than you reaching out to them. You also need to keep your long-term career goals in mind. So whether a job seeker or a freelancer, expect things to change. Technology will change, needs will change. We are in an environment where innovation and creativity in business, in design, in user experience, they are all intertwined. We are looking at emerging technologies of artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and virtual reality, and those will become part of the user experience increasingly as we go forward. So expect your career goals to change, expect to have to keep learning in order to ride the tide. So that said, let's talk about preparing for interviews and consultations. If you're a job seeker, you send out your resume, you get a call back or an email. If you are not the right candidate for them, they'll let you know. If you do make it through to the interview pool, you will already have answered a series of discovery questions. That's often done via email, and they basically weed out candidates and reduce the candidate pool via email rather than with phone interviews. In-person interviews these days don't usually come right away unless it's with a really small company. Once you get to the interview, you need to walk in prepared. Or you need to be prepared when the call comes, because very often initial interviews are done over the telephone. If you're not prepared, you won't get any farther in the process. So let's talk about how you prepare for interviews. One of the first things you should know is, what does the firm do? What is their mission in life? Why do they exist? The mission is not the product. The mission is the basis of their brand. The mission is a underlying purpose that's foundational to their existence, that's carried on throughout their culture, that is embraced by staff members and communicated to their marketplace. You need to know what that is. Usually that is easily discovered on an about page on a website. If you make it through to the interview stage, invest a few hours in learning about the company that you're interviewing for. What industries does it serve? Say it is a company in the medical field. What part of the medical field? Is it in research and development? Is it in practice? Is it in education? What specific industries does it serve? What's its niche? You need to know who their clients are. This is usually also easily discoverable on the website. What do they offer to their clients? So you want to look at them, you want to look at their competition, you want to look at the specific benefits that they give to their customers and their clients. And all of this is fodder for you to have a good interview. You also want to know about how large is the firm. Is it thousands of people? Are there 20 people? Is it a partnership LLC that's actually looking to bring on a designer for the very first time? That relates to who you report to and the type of role you will have within the company. As a creative, in certain companies and firms, you might report to an art director. At other companies, you might report to a VP. At other companies, you might report to a senior designer or an account exec who's not a creative. So it would be important to figure that out ahead of time so that you will not be surprised during the interview. If you can find out who will be doing the initial interview and then subsequent interviews if you make the cut, because depending upon who's doing the interviewing, you will be asked certain types of questions versus other types of questions. Usually in an initial interview at a larger company, you're going to be talking with human resource people. You may not be talking to a creative director or an art director who would actually be overseeing your work at the company. At a smaller company, you might be talking to the president or a VP or the owner of the business. So you want to find out who you will be interviewing with, because that's going to help you understand the types of questions they ask. An HR person is not going to ask how you solved creative problems. They're going to look more at your work history and experience. A creative director, on the other hand, or an art director will start asking you more specifically about the work in your portfolio. What's the firm's culture? Every firm has a culture. Every company, every business has a culture. You need to be comfortable fitting in that. You need to be seen as a comfortable fit for that culture. And culture can involve dress code, overtime, and generally in creative firms, you're going to be spending a lot of hours. Do you need to be involved in their causes and community outreach efforts? What is required for you to actually fit into the culture? What are the key skills they're looking for? Obviously, that's been communicated in the job listing, and it's up to you to glean from that job listing and from any subsequent correspondence. What specifically are they looking for? Are they more soft skills oriented or are they more hard skills oriented? Are they looking for a creative thinker? Are they looking for a wrist? Are they looking for somebody who's self-motivated and self-directed, or are they looking for a team player who is going to be directly supervised? Will you have to take a skills test? A lot of firms do this to assess your ability to not just handle Photoshop or Illustrator, but to understand what you know about design and what you know about creative problem solving. So if you're a freelancer, you will want to know who your prospective client is, because you have to determine, do I really want to work with this client? So you need to know their mission. You need to know their causes. You need to know what industries they serve and who their clients and customers are. You need to know what problems they solve for their clients. It's also a good idea to know how large the business is, because if it's one person or two people, you'll probably be directly interacting with one or both. If it is a very large company, who is the point person that you are talking to most? Who has the approval authority? That's the person you want to deal with. If you're working for a nonprofit, do you have to deal with an entire board of directors? Or are you dealing with an executive director? Or are you dealing with a specific member of the board? So you need to know how large is the company or organization and who will you be working with on the project. In regard to key skills, a client's going to be more, can you solve my problem for me, rather than how good are you at Photoshop. Clients don't really care how you get things done for them. They just care that you get it done. Very few freelancers are asked to do skills tests unless they are the type of freelancer that goes in-house and is placed temporarily by a placement agency. But if you are independent and you're coming alongside rather than going on premise to your client's place of business, your skills that they're looking for are going to be within the problem-solving range, not wrist or technician range. In regard to causes, a freelancer is not an employee. So there's no requirements for you to support certain things. But to understand the company better, know what their CSR policies are. So let's look specifically at interview questions that you might come up against as a job seeker and initial consultation questions that you might encounter as a freelancer when first talking with your clients. Question that interviewers will ask will be, tell me about yourself. So if you're a job seeker, you're pretty much going to get this by way of starting off the interview. As a freelancer, a client may want to know more about who else you've worked with and what kind of projects you've worked on. So in either case, you should develop a short verbal statement that describes what you're all about. Kind of a summary statement, if you will. Don't just reiterate what's on your resume. Keep it to about a minute. It should be something that you know well enough that you can give various versions of it very comfortably, off the cuff, at the spur of the moment when asked. This is a question that is asked a lot. Figure out in advance how you're going to answer something like this. Why do you want to work at this particular firm? And what do you think you can accomplish if you are hired? As a freelancer, you're not really going to get this from a client. If the client's approached you, they're not even going to ask this question. If you've approached the client, you're going to get something similar. Why did you contact me? Or what do you think you can help me with? Why should I even listen to you? Why should I be here talking with you? So you have opportunity to basically state a case or create a compelling reason or argument that they should keep the conversation going. Freelancers won't get this, but job seekers will. Why are you looking for a new position? You don't want to dish your current or previous employer. Keep all negativity out of the interview totally. So base your response on your own career growth, accomplishing certain goals, acquiring new skills, and be specific to the company that you're interviewing with. Because you have a variety of choices of who you work with, and they have a variety of choices who they hire. So where do those two things come together? What is the common answer between those two questions? You'll get this from clients. You'll also get this from potential employers. What have you done already that relates to what we do here? Or what have you done in the past that tells me that you can do the same for me and solve my problem? So you want to be able to share kind of an overview about past projects that relate to the position in question or the client in question. This will come from clients. Why should I work with you? Why should I choose you? What makes you different and special and my best choice to take on my design project or to illustrate my book or to photograph my product? So here you need to figure out what benefits you bring to the table, because it's not just about, well, you're talented. Everybody's talented. It's not just about skill. Everybody's skilled. Given the fact that you have skill and you have talent, and there's other people who also have both, what makes you the standout for the employer or the client? Why should they hire you? Why should they work with you? Very often, especially in an interview for a job, not so much with a client, you're going to get questions asking how self-aware you are, and this is one of them. What's your greatest weakness? So what they're looking for is how well you know yourself and what you're doing about problem areas. Because problem areas are those things that are going to make you a difficult person given their culture. So figure out what your least desirable trait or a couple of traits might be, but also share how you are working or have worked to overcome it. So you want to be honest. You don't just want to leave it there at honesty. You want to demonstrate some proaction, steps that you've taken to either fix the problem or become better at something or turn it into a positive. Another question you'll get from interviewing with creative directors and art directors and senior designers, and definitely also from clients, how did you come up with this idea? How did you come up with this design? So you want to share about your research and your concept development process. So hopefully you have a research and concept development process. Because if you say, well, it just came to me, that's really not a bona fide answer, because nothing just shows up. Understand what your design process is or your creative process so that you can share it verbally with the people that you're talking with. It gives you credibility to be able to talk about your process. It also gives you authority over your work, that this is your work that you're showing and not somebody else's. A couple of tips. This is for freelancers and for job seekers. The people that you talk with, whether client or interviewer, may not be prepared for your interview. They may know nothing about you. They may not have even read your resume or your cover letter or not even have looked at your website. So don't be offended. People are busy, or that's just their style. They don't bother until they get to the interview. So be prepared to discuss your qualifications, education, and everything about your resume, everything that's on your about page. And don't expect interviewers or prospective clients to have done their homework, even though you need to make sure you've done yours. Freelancers especially, you want to take the upper hand, you want to take the lead in the conversation as much as possible. If you're a freelancer, you may find that some people you talk with have never worked with a designer before, or they've never worked with an illustrator or photographer before. They have no clue what to expect. They just know they need something done and they have to come to a designer to do it, or they need a product shot and they need a photographer to do it. So again, be prepared to take the lead in the conversation, to share your process, and to share what they should expect from a professional, creative person such as yourself. Another thing for freelancers, at the end of the consultation, at the end of that first meeting or phone call, inform the prospect what the next steps are. A job seeker can ask what the next steps are. The freelancer needs to tell the client what the next steps are, because you're the owner of your freelance business and you need to run your business a certain way. If a client is trying to run your business for you, back off, because they're probably not going to be a good fit for you to work with. So next steps. You're going to follow up with an email that outlines, or you're going to follow up with a written proposal that summarizes everything and includes a budget and a schedule and a timeline. Then if the client agrees to that, then you're going to send a contract, and then you're going to invoice for a down payment, and then you'll start work. Which leads me to protect your livelihood and protect your reputation. Don't ever start a freelance project without having a written contract in place, signed, sealed, and delivered by the client at least, that outlines everything that's expected. When possible, always get a down payment. Always get money up front before you start the project. This protects your livelihood. Do not start a project before you have commitment on the part of a client. Want to talk a little also about visual and verbal cues, especially for freelancers. These will happen in job interviews as well. First impressions happen on both sides of the table. If you don't walk away with a favorable impression, you may not want to accept the job or the project from the client if you're a freelancer. So be very aware of body language. So these are verbal and visual cues that you want to look for. Number one is the person you're talking with complaining, either about the company, about previous designers, about certain people on staff, the creative department in general, past designers or illustrators they've worked with? Is there a sense of complaint throughout their conversation? Eye contact. Are they looking at you directly? Are they addressing you, or are they looking over your head or over your shoulder? Now, if you're showing a portfolio, very often they're going to be looking at your work and asking you questions. They may not lift their eyes, but when they're not looking at your portfolio, are they facing you? Are they leaning forward? Are they sitting back? Have they turned their body? Do they appear distracted? These are all things that tell you that the interview may not be going as well as you think it is. People do not communicate in words alone. There's facial expressions, there's tone of voice, there is body language, and there's eye contact. How is the person dressed? Especially clients, how are they representing their company to you? Because again, first impressions happen on both sides of the table. Is the person in front of you somebody that you want to work with as a freelancer? Is the person doing the interviewing somebody that you can respect if they are going to be your team leader? You have to make these assessments. Once the interview is done, what you want to do is send a thank you, either an email, a written note, or a very short letter on business stationery is a cool idea. Just thanking people for their time and end it on a positive note. Just want to thank you for your time, for meeting with me and talking about the position your company is offering. It sounds like a great opportunity. I believe I will be a good fit and make a great contribution to the company. Looking forward to next steps. Always talk about things from a positive basis. A thank you note expressing gratitude is gold, and it will get you remembered in a positive way. Especially for freelancers, you'll want to keep in touch with prospective clients. Not everybody has opportunity for you right away, so you'll want to send your promos out and keep in touch via email or via direct mail or both. If you're a job seeker and you didn't get the job, but it's a company that you really want to be part of, keeping in touch is crucial. You send your promos. You let people know of new work. You let people know of accomplishments, things like that. You never know, it might come back around a couple years later and they decide, hey, I remember this person, let's call them in and see where they are and see if this is now a good time to bring them aboard as our new senior designer or something like that. Following up is also a way to provide additional information that wasn't discussed in the interview, because very often, especially with job interviews and also with clients, you won't get to everything, and the questions asked will not be what you necessarily expect to respond to. So following up with a thank you letter, staying in touch via email allows you to provide additional information to help them make a decision. Your initial interview as a freelancer leads to a job. You will want to follow up with a confirmation, a written contract or confirmation letter of agreement. Sometimes your initial follow-up is going to be that proposal before you get to the contract. Sometimes if it's a small job, you're going to send a confirmation letter that this is what you've agreed to. I did want to touch on internships a bit because they're very popular both for students and emerging professionals. The purpose of an internship is for you to acquire real-world experience, and usually this is done as part of your education. Internships are very often presented as a pathway to employment. Do not rely on an internship as an open door to a paid full-time or part-time job with the company. Internships are often speculative. In other words, an internship will be offered, you'll be doing the work of a regular employee, but you won't be paid. Once you're out of school, it's a better idea to pursue employment, not internships. Internships are okay while you're in school if you're receiving course credit, if there are certain criteria, if there's certain learning objectives that you are going to acquire in that internship, and if you're going to do work that is potentially real world that you can actually put in your portfolio when you graduate or when you complete your certificate. And internships should be a specific duration, usually about 3 months, and again with clear objectives for you to accomplish, and that means that they're supervised by somebody in the company on site, and also there's coordination with your school, just like it's a class. If you do internships as part of your education, you should treat them like a regular job. You should take them seriously. You're there to learn, acquire skills. You're there to get to know more about what's expected in the real world. So treat it like you're getting paid for it, because you're getting paid with a grade. And you should expect a letter of recommendation from your supervisor once the internship has completed. Do not pay to participate in an internship. If you pay a tuition, an internship requirement is part of the curriculum, then of course the internship will be covered just like any class under your tuition. But you should not pay to play other than that. Once you complete your education, look for jobs, not internships. Look for paid jobs, part-time, full-time. Internships as professionals probably will not lead you where you want to go. And they might do more to hinder than to help you accomplish your career goals. Internships are part of your work experience, so always include them on your resume. Interns are not employees, so you are not protected as an employee. You're not being brought on usually as an employee, so you won't enjoy the status of being an employee. And these are just some things to think about. An internship is not the same as a job. So I encourage you to look for jobs, not internships. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was what it takes to be professional. It doesn't mean that you're getting paid for something. It's not about how much skill or talent you have, Being professional is a mindset. It's doing things as if they matter. And it's how you treat people, it's how you do your work, it's your overall mindset. One of the marks of being professional is knowing that once you leave school, what you do as a creative is about business. People need to earn a living, make money, companies need to make profits, nonprofits need to make profits. It's all about business. Whether you are a freelancer or a job seeker, you need to treat it like a business. Another mark of a professional in the creative professions is that they understand it's a service profession. You create design, photography, illustration to help other people succeed. They're paying you for your skill and expertise and creativity. Professionals always give it their best effort, and they're always working to level up what their best is. The more mediocre your effort, the more competition you will have. The more excellent your work, the less competition you will have and the more you will stand out. If you are working at a job, full-time or part-time, and you want to accept freelance gigs on the side, it's a good idea to confirm with your employer that there's not an existing non-compete clause in your employment contract, and also that it's okay to accept work on the side. Very often, because of deadlines, an employer is going to want you exclusively working with them. So if you want to freelance on the side, the professional approach is to confirm that you are okay to do so. Relatedly, you should confirm with your employer that it's okay to use the work that you create as part of your employment in your portfolio. The reason for this is you don't own the copyright, your employer does. That's a big difference between freelancing and being employed by somebody else, is who owns the copyright when you create your work. So anything you do as a freelancer, you own the copyright as soon as you create it, but as an employee, your employer owns the copyright. It belongs to the company or organization you're working for, because you're part of that company or organization. So if you're employed, be sure to verify that if you want to use any work for self-promotion purposes, it's okay for you to do so. Professionals follow through. They do what they say they're going to do to the best of their ability. And if they can't follow through, they communicate that they can't, and they make other arrangements. Professionals also leave well. Very often we leave jobs or we fire clients because of things going wrong or difficult relationships. The thing is that how you leave a current or past position and what you carry forward with you from that is going to affect your current or future position. So to the best of your ability, leave well. If it was a difficult situation, leave it there and don't carry it forward with you. How you leave an old situation is how you will enter a new one. So consider carefully not bringing along the old baggage. Deal with it, put closure on it, whatever you need to do, but separate yourself from it moving forward. Freelancers especially, but any creative professional is often asked to do work for free because it's a good cause or it's for a friend. Everything you do has value. The work that you create has value. Your time is valuable. Your expertise is valuable. Your skill is valuable. Don't work for free. Don't work for a credit line. Don't work for exposure, experience. Don't do speculative work. Instead, that is basically doing work in the hopes that somebody will like it enough to pay for it. You need to make a living. You need to pay your bills. Value what you do. Value your creative talent and expertise. And don't work for a credit line. It won't get you anywhere. Exposure won't get you anywhere. If you are a freelancer, you are a self-employed business owner. So the mark of a professional as a freelancer is that you do what's good for your business and you conduct things in a business-like manner. Develop your business skills alongside your creative skills, and those business skills will help support your creative work. So learn about copyright, learn how to write a contract, learn how to market yourself, learn about business systems, learn all the things that a business owner needs to know, and then conduct your freelance practice as a business. Professionals leverage their networks. Leverage your networks to expand your sphere and open up opportunities. Networking is an important aspect of being a professional. Not only are you helped and receive benefit from it, but you are able to help and benefit others. So you help others succeed in your networks, and they will help you succeed. And again, always do your best work and always value the work that you do. If you do not value your own work, nobody else is going to. Don't treat the result of your talents and your education and your skill lightly. The stuff that you do as a creative can change people's lives. It can be transformative. So take that approach with it. Don't be haughty, but take the right approach with it. As you develop your portfolio, understanding that it's an ongoing process, and you engage more as a professional, you need to plan and frame and design your path as carefully as you would any visual project in your portfolio. Things won't simply happen. You have to make them happen. You have to be deliberate and intentional about what you do. You are entering the business world as a creative professional. Set yourself up to succeed before you graduate or as early as possible in your career. Be patient, be tenacious, be persistent, set goals, pursue them, accomplish them, and set new goals.